let's get right into it, Mercedes. Let's get right into it. Talk about what's one of the hardest things for you when you started your company? Like, was it like opportunities? Was it trying to find the right, information? Was it looking for
So for
jobs?
me, one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is finding the right clients. Because we've had this talk before in the past, where I would rather see two clients in one day and make $1,000 as opposed to seeing five clients and making that same $1,000. But the thing is, I had to work on my mouth of, or word of mouth and get those people in so that every time I dealt with someone that I liked, I'd be like, hey, if you know somebody that could use my services, recommend them. Just two people. And that's what I would tell them, just two people. Normally, what I'm doing now is I'm asking everyone, just give me five of your best friends, five people that you know will not say no. They just cannot say no. You know they have the finances, you know they have the time, and you know that they need it. So left the rest up to me. And that's how I get that. That has been the hardest thing for me because I have all this information, but then who do I give it to? And then I don't want to have to be repeating myself. You've seen how I am with my clients. This is what I want, this is what I expect from you. You give this to me, we're good. When you start breaking down, and I can't have that kind of clients. I don't have. So for me, the hardest thing was actually getting clients that make my job easy, you know? So reaching out there, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with starting a conversation, starting a new topic. Topic for me isn't such a big deal because, I've worked in the food and beverage industry. I've done waiting, cooking, assistant cook, assistant prep, dishwashing, everything. So any single point along there in the medical field, hotel management, cleaning, I can speak to anyone about that. I've done a little bit of traveling, not as much as I wanted over the years, but I could also communicate with people about traveling, about different parts of the world. Snorkeling, diving, fishing, spearfishing, all these different things. So for me, I can just knock up a conversation with anyone about anything, tattoos, scars, So it's very hard for me to be like, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about to this person, And there's been one person like that in California that I've met for the very first time. And every time I meet that person, we talk about sports. No, I don't have anything against sports.
The one thing you can't, that's your like kryptonite. That's why I'm here, Jesus.
No, but this is what I'm saying. If it's like soccer, football, I can talk about that. Baseball, softball, and then because I'm not a big sports person unless it's like boxing, wrestling, MMA, jiu-jitsu, that's my kind of thing. Like I want to see blood, So when whenever I meet this person, I see this person, they talk about, oh, this team, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. Nice seeing you later. And then I just move on because it's pointless for me because that's not my thing. And I've tried talking about other issues happening, other topics, and it's just like always turns right back into sports. And I'm just like, okay, try and not hang out with this person as often, Because I just feel like it puts a real block right onto my things. So, the hardest thing for me, going back to that question, the hardest thing for me starting up my business was finding the right clients.
It's awesome. Yeah, like I know. Yeah, because especially with I was looking at it, and I'm like, one of the hardest things for sure is definitely just getting clients and then keeping clients too. Like sometimes.
Attention.
Yeah, but talk to different people, and some people are like, listen, this is anything you do. He's like, anything I do, it's people. It's people. It's a people business. He's like, when I essentially sign up to provide a service of any kind, whether it be construction, whether it be fitness, whether it be coffee, it's like you have to make sure that I actually even got a call today this morning. They're like, hey, I didn't get my information about the coffee vendors, and like I didn't get any information about this, and I'm like, oh man, it's 7:30 in the morning, and you're already calling me about this, and but like I work with people from here all the way to New York, so I might be getting calls from like 6 a.m. to about 5 p.m. Like all maybe I might not. It just depends because like people are working, people are doing their stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, like I gotta make sure that I don't. It's not that his money's gonna keep the business afloat, but it's like, the second you start losing more money than you're making, it's like that's when you start to like, slowly start to drain the bank account. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure. I'm gonna get on this. I'm gonna send it to my manager, one of the managers, and let him know that you haven't got anything. And I was like, all right, cool, no problem. I'm like, is there anything else I can help you with? He's like, no, thank you, man. I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. And
it's funny that you say that because I think one of the hardest things to come by is communication with anyone. I don't care. I don't care who it is, because one, you have to give that message, and two, you have to receive that message. But generally, between those two parties, you have to know if one, that was the message they intended to send, and two, was that the message that you received? Because it's so easy for people to twist an idea that you're trying to get across. So I think that is the biggest thing. Finding someone that can communicate with you, being the boss, with your clients, being the ones paying for their paycheck, and just being able to evenly distribute that energy everywhere. Someone that has balance, because you don't want someone talking to your clients in a rough way because they missed their coffee. These are the people that are paying are making your paycheck. Obviously you don't go into work seeing it that way, but really and truly, the same way you can build a business through word of mouth, the same exact way I have seen business break down.
Yeah, for sure. It's no doubt about it, man. Yeah, like I know that's like one of the that's always been a difficult one right there too, is like always just making sure customer attention and making sure that you're not like, killing it on something and, murdering it on some other stuff. And I'm like, always just been like, oh, okay, for sure. No problem. And just like, anytime they call me, I'm like, yeah, like, let me take your call. This is the most important thing to me right now. Like, I don't put it off. I'm not like, oh, give me one moment, please. I'll be like, if they say, hey, I'm calling about this, I'll be like, oh, all right, this is time. Like, this is go time. This is me having to make sure that I'm doing my customer service duty, because I don't have anybody. I mean, we have people doing it, but like they're not getting called right now. Mm-hmm. I'm the one getting called. Like I'm not. I have to go from essentially like your CEO chair to customer service and being like, you're not above it. You can't be too proud to giving you a customer service call to be like, well, that's not my job. I'm so sorry. Let me send it off. Like next to that guy's pissed because I sent it off to customer service, and now customer service, like you said, is being a little bit of a douche. And now they're like, well, now I just want to dispute this, and now we want to go through all this trouble and all this stuff, and now we got to like send out paperwork, and all could have just been solved by me being like, now I got to do customer service. Like it's no longer like about the money. It's about like, well, what's my system like? How's the system working? Like it's not working that well. Like we have to change something, and there's a flaw. Like there's a flaw in the Death Star right now. Like they expose that weakness right now.
Question: do you by any chance schedule how much time you spend on say like the advertisement of businesses or stuff like that, like Googling to see what your I guess other businesses are doing in the field that you're in?
Not really. We kind of just do our own thing and let the chips fly where they may, because we got like a couple opportunities lined up right now that will make us more money. That we're just kind of like, nah, like we know how to do stuff. We have a system that works. It's more just building out the back end of the infrastructure where it's like, like customer service, business to business development, sales reps that are good, And then, us just keeping track of all the, making sure all the finances are good and, making sure all is good on that end.
Cool, cool. Um, how do you go when thinking about something like that on a scale the way you're thinking about? How do you go about looking for your workers? Because obviously you have a set mentality of how you want the business to run, right? You just see this store, this business open with people rushing through, giving their service, doing their service, spending their money. But then, how do you go about finding the people to bring forth that service? Because now you sit through 100 different resumes, and out of that 100 resume, you've chosen 10 people. Your staff. How do you go about choosing those 10 people? What are your
That's a good question. Yeah. For me, I ask them kind of like, where do you see yourself? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Because, everybody's on their path for something. And so when I meet with someone, I'm like, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what are you trying to make in this job? What are you trying to do? Like, because I've heard stories like my partner's been in this business way longer than me. And he was like, listen, we had a Beverly Hills office and we had supermodels walking through the office every day because it was like in one of the supermodel agency offices.
Mhm.
So he's like, we had one floor, someone else had another floor. And so, we have our workers coming to Beverly Hills and sitting in the elevator with supermodels day in and day out. And some of them are like, yo, I'm like, he's like, you know what? I think I should be making more money. You know what? I feel like I should have a bigger position in the company. Like, you know what? When and then there's been other ones that like we open up an office. He opens up an office in the valley, somewhere in the valley, like in the nicer area of the valley. And someone that's killing it. They're like, yo, you're killing it. Do a great job. Keep killing it. At some point, he just goes, you know what? I feel like I'm undervalued. I feel like I should be making double what I'm making. Homie's making 6 figures a year. And he's like, I want to be making double that. And I'm like, wow, like you that? I'm like, what? How are you like you're killing it and now you want even more. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. But then, one guy's like, I'm gonna go up to the law office now, the law office, the floor with all the lawyers.
Mhm.
Then this other guy's like, yo, I'm gonna blow up this office. I'm calling up customers. I'm telling them that you guys are like terrible. You guys don't treat me right. Like you guys work us like dogs. Like people just being like, essentially just being like, I don't feel like I'm valued. And some of them might not like have gone about the right way. And I'm like, so for me, I'm always like, yo, what do you want? Or what are you trying to accomplish out of this? Because I'm like, yo, if you're just trying to make money, I mean, you could do the job and you will make money. It's no problem. But if you're like, I want to be in the media industry. I want to be a filmmaker. Then I'm like, you probably don't want this job because you're not gonna. This is not helping you succeed towards that, and then you're gonna be bitter while coming into work. And so I'm like, I don't need that. Like, I want someone that's ready to work and someone that's like, say they want to like, they're like, hey, I want to go farther in the company. And then I'm like, well, then great. You do good. We do good. You get pumped up and raised. You bump up in your position. You'll be supervisor or whatever the second we scale up. But like, I need to make sure that you're ready. You want to do this because if you don't want to do this, then I'm like, there's no point in hiring because then I know end result, you might be here for like 2 years, but you'll definitely drag us down. You'll slug us down. And then the second thing I like to ask him is because of all that stuff. I'm like, how much do you want to get paid? Like he told me, he's like, how much do you want to get paid? I'm like, I think that's such a big thing right there is like, some people don't want to talk about that. Some people want to just be like, well, it's in standard for me to pay you dirt cheap, even though you're a personal assistant. I'm giving you a position and I'm giving you experience. Like I should pay you cheap. I'm like, I don't think like that. I'm like, yo, if I pay you really good, I expect you to do a really good job. And yeah, you're getting experience and yeah, you're not having to you're doing menial tasks, but you're getting paid really well to do these menial tasks. So I'm like, I'm not saying that I'm above you, but I'm just saying like, there's a certain expectancy. You want to be making, 6 figures, you better be doing 6 figures worth of work or even 7 figures. So you help the person and they want to help you more. And so
how do you go about not jumping your workers onto the next level if they're saying, hey, I think I should be making blah, blah, blah. I think you're underappreciating me. I think you should put me in the position of, how do you go about choosing that? Now that you've obviously seen, you've gone through the interview phase. You've asked them the right question. Now they're working. They've been working for you for, let's say, 6 months. And now they feel like, oh, they know the entire back ends of the business, the ins and outs, because sometimes this happens. Sometimes it takes people 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, you know, and then they get that cocky little feeling like, well, this is a lot of work, this is too much work, I should be making more, or I'm running your business for you now, I'm doing everything, you know. How do you go about telling them, yo, chill out, relax, you're not there yet? Or do you amp them up? How do you differentiate like that?
I haven't had to like put anybody on that because we usually just like flip over. Like there's so much turnaround that we'll keep employees for like maybe, I think the longest ones we've had right now have been like 3 months, 4 months. And that's just because of customer service retention. Okay. Well, they're not customer service, but they're sales reps. And so like for them, like, you know, if you're not getting the job done, we kind of just like flip you over and you're done. But I mean, it would just have to have that meeting. I would probably have a meeting being like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Like, what's this? What's that? And because I want to make sure that everything's still, you know, going good and there's not some ill-mannered. And I'd probably just be like, all right, where do you see yourself? Like, oh, you're doing this. I'd be like, well, you know, like we still have some stuff coming up. So I still unfortunately can't promote you because we're not bringing anybody on board. So it's still just you. I mean, we could probably just give you the title of saying like whatever. But I'm just like, but in bottom line, you're still going to be number 2. Like, if you want to put that on your resume, go ahead. Like, that's totally cool with you.
So what would you do if they came to that setting now where you're having this conversation with that worker and they're like, well, I already checked with this other company and they're going to amp me up to the position that you don't want to give me, and they're going to give me the pay that you don't want to give me. But I've gotten the experience with you for this, I don't know, 6, 12 months. So now, how do you go from there?
Honestly, if I'm like, yo, I'm like, well, I mean, if that's what you feel, then go right ahead. I'm not going to be the one. I'm not going to be someone to beg you to stay. If you don't want to stay, that's your prerogative. That's your deal. Like, I mean, I'm happy I helped you with your experience. And like, honestly, if they're killing it and I'm still paying them dirt cheap, then I suck as a boss, because then if they're killing it and then another job is like, yo, I see what they're doing and I want them for that job, then I'm like, then I'm doing a terrible job. Because if they're like contemplating leaving because of that I'm like not paying them good and they're killing it for me, then I'll probably want to bump them up, just depending on how business is going. If they're killing it and they're bringing in more money, like I said, like you're making 6 figures, I want you making 7 for the company. I'm like, if you're bringing in 7 figures or, you know, 6 figures and you're making what, like 80K, 90K, some random number, then I'm like, yeah, I want to bump you up for sure. Like, I'm not here to just make myself rich. I'm here to help the way I can. So I'm really trying to think about all that. So if they were like, yo, I want to leave and this person's going to offer me more money and this is something they want to do, then I'm like, go for it. That's no problem. I'll find someone else. Because there's still another person like that out there. There's thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people that can do the job. It will kind of suck having to start from the ground up, but I mean, that's the goodness of business, though. Is like, you know, you always have to keep changing. You can't stay the same.
That's how you build your dream team. You know, some businesses go from the time they open, they are changing workers. You know, whereas there's other companies where as soon as they open, they already have their dream team. They have an amazing office manager, front desk, customer, whatever. They have it because they go out and they invest the time in searching for that specifically for those areas.
100%.
You know, and sometimes you walk into these places and you're like, whoa, like you just feel that like
the vibe is off. You're just like, I feel so heavy and like I feel like everybody wants to rip out each other's throats.
Yeah, exactly. So
no, I get 100%, bro. Like company culture, like for sure. That's some company culture stuff. Like, I mean, I've seen it in church settings, and I've seen it in business settings, and I've seen it where like I've gone out with like employees from work, and they're like, I hate our boss, and I'm like, really? I'm like, I don't mind him or her,
Yeah.
and like they're whatever, they're nice to me, they hook it up, and then they're like, yeah, I don't like them, like they just don't treat me right. I feel underappreciated. Like I feel like I should be making more money, but I'm like, we're in a government job. We don't get to like ask for pay raises. Like we don't.
Yeah.
We're like standard workers. We're not supposed to be like we can ask for more hours, but like it's like there's so many people he's got to take care of that it's like as much as it benefits me to do this and do that. I'm just like I'm on that spectrum where I'm just like always like, yeah, if you need my help, I'm there to help you. Like sometimes that's such a bad thing for me because I'll be like, I've lost so many job opportunities being like they're like, hey, can you come in for an interview today? I'm like, absolutely. And then someone calls me and is like, hey, I need you right now. Then I'm like, let's go. And then I'm like, fudge. I totally lost sight of what my vision was because I cared so much about helping people that I'm like, yo, like if I take that into business, like as I have at times, I'm just like, yo, like this person is important. Like these people are important. And I'm trying to make sure everybody's good on this end. And I'm trying to make sure this is okay. Like that's one of my advantages. Like sometimes it does suck away my time, but I'm just like, that's the culture I want to build is where we don't just clock in and clock out. We're ready to help at any time.
No, what I wanted to talk about was how I asked earlier, how do you go about paying back? Now you've talked about how you do it with your coworkers. How do you touch on that with your customer now?
Yeah, pretty much the same way. We'll like send them gifts. We'll send them like iPads, like laptops, gift cards. Thank
Do
you.
you keep track of the expenses when it comes to that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, but I mean, most of the time we usually get the business, so it's just return on investment. That's just an ROI thing where we're just like we're gonna pay a little bit just to get the bigger fish, and so like usually a lot of the time if we spend like huge amounts of money on something, it's because we're about to make huge amounts of money off of it. So we're willing to spend, maybe $1,000, $2,000.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We're about to be making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 just off this alone. So we're just like, it's coming back. It might not come back this quarter because we're gonna see that, but then once we sign the deal, then we're good to go.
Yeah, cool. I just thought I'd ask that because that's one of the main things I've done. Like back when I was in Phoenix, for instance, one of the things that I did to get my kind of clientele that would pay for my 2-3 hours of, say, a massage therapy or whatever it was that I did, and I'd make a quick whatever amount I would make in that time, but how I would pay back instead, because there's no way that I could add more time to say a 3-hour massage. It's already 3 hours. I'm just exhausted. I just want to get out of there. But how I go about that is when I book them, I would normally add another service to that, and in turn going, oh hey, this is how much I normally charge for this, but today I'll just pop it in there for you. You know what I mean? So like if I'm doing like a massage session or something, I'll do like an acupressure on there, just so that they get that thing, and then they already know my prices, so they know that it's a deal that they're getting. So that's kind of how I go about giving trying to keep my retention, doing my paybacks, and showing my appreciation too with my customers, and one thing, if I have the extra time, I'm going to extend the extra time. But if I'm cutting back or I'm running tight on time, then I cut back a little, and then they know that, and one thing about each and every last one of the persons that I've ever dealt with, they easily know how my day is going. If I call them 10 minutes before, if I text them 10 minutes before, if I text them right on time, if I text them call them right on time. So after dealing with clients like that for 3 years, they get used to the way you run things. And so it's nice. So now with that, when clients get into that, used to next, that, oh, I can talk to JD and JD is going to do this or do that or give me this or give me that. How do you go about saying, okay, this is where I need to back up. I can't do that. We normally do that for this, but I can't do that for you. How do you go about stopping? Because now, earlier we talked about giving openly, freely. How do you stop that now?
I don't know. I've never had to just stop giving. I'm always one to give more. I mean, I would ask you that more question, because for me, I don't really necessarily stop giving. I've had people that I ran there, we charge them there in the company for like a week or like a month, and they're still calling me. And that's not necessarily even the person that's in charge of all their accounts. They're calling me being like, hey, I don't know what's going on with this and with that. And I'm like, and in my head, I can easily just go listen, there's someone that's in charge of your account. But for me, I've had it where it's like I'm in the middle of the gym, and then this is time to work out and de-stress and not worry about business stuff or work stuff or church stuff or whatever stuff. And they call me and I'm picking up the phone in the middle of my workout being like, yeah, okay, yeah, let me talk to this person. And then I'm having to stop my workout and give time to be like, hey, so-and-so is not getting something. Can you check in on that? There's something wrong. I know you're in front of your computer. I'm not in front of my computer right now. Can you check this? And they're like, yeah, sure. Here, I'm here's the information, this and that. And then I call them back and I'm like, hey, good news. They're going to check in with you right now. They're going to give you a call. And so for me, I haven't had that. I haven't learned that where it's hey, I've had that more personally where I'm just listen, I got businesses. I got stuff to run. I got my own life. I got this going on. And so I can't necessarily be at your beck and call. But business wise, I'm always ready to give more. I never not know when to stop. I would ask you that question more because I've yet to learn how to do that. Where it's of course I can't do that. I'm in my head. I'm
and why I ask that question is because you brought it up that you can float in just about any area of your company, and with someone that can do that, they're always the one person that gets burnt out first. Because they're like, oh yeah, I can take your order. Oh yeah, now I can make your order. Oh yeah, but now I can also give you your order, And now I can charge you for your order. So these are different.
Yeah.
So it's about you going, this is my job description. Yes, I know to do everything in all these areas, but that's where I'm making the money. But that does not mean that I'm going to say, okay, worker, get out of the way because I'm going to take this client's order. Because what you've done is you've said to that worker, hey, I don't need you to do it. I just need you to stand here and look like I need workers because I can do it myself. You see how now your worker thinks, well, my boss can do it himself. Why the heck am I here? You see that?
Yeah, that's what I.
Being able to say, yes, Mr. John, yeah, I would love to help you with this, but I'm not the one on your account right now, unfortunately. Such and such is on your account. Let me give you a call back. If I can't get a hold of them, I'll let them give you a call or whatever. How do you, that, knowing how to be whoa, I can, but I won't be the person, but I can bring the person that you need.
Yeah, I definitely got to do that more, and I'm probably Probably will with other stuff going on, just to like, make sure everything is scalable. I'm looking for people right now. I'm looking for like, that dream team. I'm trying to assemble that dream team, but I'm looking for it. I'm like, that's why I'm looking for staffing right now for some stuff. And so I'm trying to get there where I'm like giving off more and kind of paying someone more. And I'm interviewing this girl later today about that stuff. So I see where her head is at, because she was one. Honestly, the only reason why I'm following up with her, because I was like, I think I might open up this job again. And the only reason I followed up with her, because I told her, I was like, yo, Friday, you don't hear from me, and I'm so sorry, but like you should hear from me by Friday the latest. And she was like, out of like, I think about like 60 or like 30 people that I interviewed, 10 that actually followed through with the interview and stuff that I liked. She was like, she hit me up Friday and was like, hey, just checking in, seeing if the job's still open, seeing if like what's going on. And I was like, oh, she kind of wants a job. Like, even though I think she does her own little thing and stuff like that, I was like, oh, she's serious. And then someone else hit me up on Saturday, but I was like, nah, I'm like, it's Saturday. Like, I shouldn't be seeing this. And so I see it Friday. I see her thing. It's like Friday afternoon. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, let's set it up. We'll set up next week today. Like, we'll set up next week, Friday. We'll sit down, we'll chat some more, we'll talk about the position, see what's up with that. And because she followed up and she was like, she kind of like reached out. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, let's see what it is about. Because if not, I'll probably just open up the listing again and just bring in a whole nother set and then just kind of see what's up. Because there's a lot of people that apparently that want the experience. And so it's not the hardest thing to find people for that. But I just want someone that's ready to work. So I'm trying to, build that culture out, build that team out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've still been trying to run through a few resumes that I've gotten for sales. That's one of my biggest things that I'm looking for.
The hardest thing to find, man.
What's that?
That's the hardest thing to find, man. So hard. Like, if you could find, a couple good sales reps, you're gonna be making some money. Like, you make them money, but then you're making money as well. Like, when people that know how to do that, sky's the limit. That's what I was. The guy we had on last week, JD Bailey, he was killing it in insurance sales, and I was like, yo, how come I just don't hire this guy for my company? Because this guy knows how to sell. And then I was talking to him, and I was like, yo, name your price, bro. Like, I know you can make the sales. Like, we're giving you sales. You made sales cold calling. So I'm like, I know you can make sales if we generate leads for you, and we generate the lead. So he was like, bro, I just made like $8,000 or like $9,000. And I was like, fudge. I would have just hired him. Like, that's money in the bank. Like,
and see, all I'm looking is for a sales rep to do is fill in those little gaps that I have in my schedule. Because like right now, like say for instance, we're meeting between 8 and 9, and then I have this gap between 9 and 10. So I'm looking for someone to fill at 9 and 10 because the rest of my day is all filled up. But it's getting the right clients to fill in those gaps, because it's not like I have 45 minutes. It's literally 30 minutes that I have. And my sessions are 45 minutes long. So now I either have to shrink the time that I spend working out with people or increase the gap that I have of free time. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it just doesn't fit because one is smaller than the other. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
So what I'm trying to do is just find those little gaps, but now I have to come up with a brand new service that lasts 30 minutes.
It's good, man. You keep variation in your program.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do, man. Like with all this stuff, like if I keep it going, I think, like I'm definitely looking for people. And like I've heard like, yo, just keep it built. Like don't like do it yourself. Like don't hire people. And I'm like, and then I read the book you gave me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that one's like, yo, hire someone out. He's like, bro, even when I wasn't making that much money, I still had a personal assistant.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, "All right, here's a link for virtual assistants." But I was like, I don't know if I want a virtual assistant. I want someone that I'm like able to tell, "Hey, I need you to go to the store and pick up 10 gift cards for the employees to say thank you for." I don't think I could tell a virtual assistant, "Yo, I need you to go to the store and pick up 10 gift cards." They're gonna be like, "You want me to call someone?" I'll be like, "No, I need you to go to the store and pick something up." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the assistant."
So with Phoenix coming up, this is my grand plan is that I really want to see if I can just get my sales rep, my assistant, to probably live in the same house because I'm moving into a 3-bedroom house now.
Oh, wow.
So it's like if I could provide that service to you and you have a service that I need,
Yeah. I
then
mean,
you're
you could
already there.
you just tell them housing is included. You're like live-in assistant, and then you probably just have to put that in the description.
Oh yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
Because then you don't want them to be like, "Oh, I was just kind of hoping to clock out at like X amount of hours."
Yeah. Well, what I'm also doing is I'm hoping to do like a 3-month. So every 3 months I find someone new. So that way I not only keep my business fresh online, but I get all these new concepts of thoughts, you know? So rather than getting someone for a whole year or 2 years that's going to run my business in a certain pattern, in a certain way that they're used to, now, yes, I'm gonna have to get to work to retrain and figure all that out. But at the same time, it gives me time to go back, see what's being done, what's being used, and refurbish what I have or throw out what I don't want, you know? So this is my mentality. No, I've never done something on this scale before where it's every 3 months or every 6 months I refresh. So it's going to be a new thing for me. So we'll see how that goes as far as keeping things fresh online and in you know in person. Because like I said, my biggest thing is I don't want to be stressed out about work. My thing is just, you know, I just want to have enough time in my day where I can make enough money and then relax the rest of the day. That's it. You know?
Yeah, no, 100%. I get it, man. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Well, that's the time we have today, man.
Yeah, that's it. So it was nice talking to you, JD. It's been an awesome week. Go get it.